It's time for another episode of The Changeover. Coming up this week.
Stop chasing clicks, start building trust. That one phrase just seemed to hit a handful of different parts within the org, a theme that resonated across the board. AI is everywhere right now, and we're not getting away from it, right? AI fatigue is real, but we can't fear it, and we just have to embrace it. If we don't control the AI search narrative, others will. We have to start writing about ourselves. Businesses have to have a way to control the narrative of who we really are and what it is that we do and how we serve our clients.
All right, welcome back to The Changeover. I'm Kelly Wilhelme, Director of Marketing at Weidert Group, and today with me is Candice Meyers of Elevity. Welcome to the show, Candice.
Hi, Kelly. Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, do you want to give our listeners of The Changeover just a quick introduction on yourself and your role, and if you want to roll right into too, like your favorite thing from INBOUND 2025, that is what we are here to talk about.
All right, I can do that. Yeah, so I am Candice Meyers. I'm the marketing manager for Elevity. We are a technology management provider, so we provide managed IT services to small and medium-sized businesses around the Midwest. And so, yeah, I have a team of one and then also a partner with Weidert on the marketing side, and attended INBOUND last week. And I feel like my favorite thing had to just be, oh boy. I mean, it was fun being in San Francisco, right? Like, it's usually in Boston, so being in a new spot is always awesome. But just being surrounded by industry leaders and other like-minded people that are doing similar things can just be so motivating and exciting and gets you ready to prep for next year. So I think that was probably my favorite part.
I agree. I think they do that on purpose, right? Like the timing of it. Heading into Q4, heading into annual planning season seems very purposeful, right?
Absolutely.
Well, thank you for being here. We always just like to represent, like on the agency side, we've been a HubSpot partner since 2011, but we know that it's a fire hose, and we really want to focus on bringing peer-to-peer insights to our listeners and what you're excited about coming out of the conference. So why don't we just start there? Is there any really big theme or thing that got you really excited that you heard this year?
Yeah, I think there's a few themes that I thought were great, and a couple of different phrases that I found myself writing down and taking back with me. One was it was stop chasing clicks, start building trust. And I felt like that was definitely a theme in terms of, how, not just how we're writing content on the marketing side, but also how you want your sales representatives to go out and speak to things, and building trust and starting with current clients that are working with a client success team and what that looks like. And that one phrase just seemed to hit a handful of different parts within the org. I think marketing is often looked at as this role that's bringing in net new, but we also have to think about how we're nurturing and expanding our client base as well. So it just felt like a theme that resonated across the board. And then I think one of the other themes that stood out was the discussion around hyper-personalization. I think, we've been talking in the marketing world about personalizing emails or content forever, but from a different perspective. It was make sure someone's first name is in the opening of, the email content, or start putting it in the subject line to grab attention. And it's so much more than that now. And it's about just really personalizing and giving them a great experience versus just putting their name in something. So that seemed like a great theme too, as we're heading into next year, to just really be focused on that sense of hyper-personalization.
Yeah, I agree. That was a big one for me too. And I think some of the tools that HubSpot rolled out gave me a lot of hope for, we've been hearing about some of that and how that's the competitive advantage, moving forward, is personalization at scale, not just tokens and batches and segments and lists, right? But like actual unstructured personalization, using those AI LLM type approach in your content, in your nurturing, in your messaging. So I was excited by some of the tools that HubSpot rolled out as well, which we'll, shameless plug, unpack at our HubSpot user group in a couple of weeks that you're going to be a participant in.
Yes.
So we'll drop the registration link for that in the show notes as well. But I think that just as a theme, that's spot on. Were there any, so you mentioned Boston. Have you gone to Inbound before?
Yes, I think this was my, third trip. So I've done 2 in Boston and then the one in San Francisco. And yeah, it was wild because obviously AI is everywhere right now, but man, did it hit home. Like in that Uber ride from the airport to the conference center in San Francisco, I mean, every billboard had AI advertisements, and it's everywhere and we're not getting away from it, right? And I did attend a session too where they were talking about AI fatigue, and it was funny. The presenter came out and it was at one of the larger stages at Inbound, and they kind of made this comment that was like, what's more fun than talking about AI? And they're like, not talking about AI. And everyone in the audience kind of had this relatable giggle that were like, please give me a session where we're not talking about AI. But ultimately it ended in an AI conversation. And I think that just speaks volumes to the fact that AI fatigue is real, but we can't fear it, and we just have to embrace it. And that combination of fear and not really wanting to learn can just be incredibly detrimental. So having a space like Inbound where we can go and learn and build our own skill sets on how to implement some of these initiatives is it's the best.
Yeah, that's cool. Pulling on that thread a little bit, I'm curious, as a practitioner in a B2B space, of marketing, what are some ways that you've already been using AI in your marketing? And were there any aha moments or cool things that you took away that you're going to try next?
Yeah, I think, one of the things with AI and how we're using it is we keep coming back to where do we begin? What tools are we going to use? How do we even start using some of this? And I think ultimately the answer is you just have to do it. And so there were a couple of tools. There was an AI agent about, it would review your web page content and say, give it a score or give some recommendations based on what AI tools are looking for search now and how you would be more visible when it comes to bringing your content to the forefront in an AI search. And so that was one that I could see us definitely implementing in the short term. I think in terms of what we're doing right now is a mindset shift, right? So when we're working on things like webinar content, going to a tool that can help us write descriptions and then help us write out those next 4 emails can just be really helpful and a great starting point for us. But again, it all comes back to learning how to prompt the tool. So there were plenty of sessions where different presenters were kind of sharing their favorite AI prompts or giving little tips and tricks to the trade of what to implement and how to write those prompts to get what you're looking for. And I think that was just really helpful. So I think continuing to think about how we're using the existing tools going forward will be a big thing. And then, just all the HubSpot tools. I think right now we're using Remix. So,
in
we'll take a blog.
Yeah.
Yes, in Content Hub. So we'll take, a podcast episode or a blog post, and then how do we give it legs? How do we put it elsewhere? How do we rewrite and use, I feel like as marketers, we're always trying to figure out how can we say the same thing 5 more times in 5 different places and make it resonate with people. And I think AI is giving us the ability to do that much faster. And we can say things like, target this type of user in the content. And those were some of the tidbits that I think in prompts that we just have to make sure we're using. And I think that was a good takeaway.
Yeah, that is a really good tip on Content Hub there. I think that's something that I think people would love to hear you speak to a little bit more in the HubSpot user group too, of how you're using that. I'm sure other people could benefit from some real world tips there.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think too, the one thing that a lot of what you were saying about working it into your flow and having it help you create content, not just for the sake of volume, but for the sake of getting it in the right places. Right.
Yes.
And so we know, we've talked about on this show a lot, and I'm sure you've heard us say it, that like the buyer landscape is more fragmented now, right? And so your buyers are in all these other channels. And a couple of years ago, when the AI tools weren't as great, it was like, how do I be in all those places, right? Like, I don't have the time to create, like, adapt this thing for 10 different platforms. Well, now you do. Yes. It doesn't take as much time anymore.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I agree. I like that. One of the themes that I took away from Inbound was the concept of the hybrid team, you know, and AI and your humans working together as a hybrid team. And I think that just plays right into that.
Yeah, I agree. And I've been trying to treat AI tools like my work bestie. You know, it's like this person that doesn't always have like the same exact context of you. So you have to talk through it and explain the situation in your prompt and really ask what you're looking for. But I've learned that the better you get with those initial prompts and the details you're providing, it can make, you know, the output so much better. It's kind of that going back and asking it to make changes sometimes, where I think AI still has challenges or fails. And so I think the more in depth and better you can get with those first initial prompts, we've seen much more success.
Yeah. And I remember, I think it was in Dharmesh's keynote talk about AI and how it works. And he was talking about his premise was U to the power of AI, and how you should spend, you know, a certain percent of your time, like 60, 30, 10, he had a rule, and how you should spend, you know, 60% of your time, like doing the repetitive stuff, like like repurposing content and stuff. And then 30% iterating, like making those prompts better, right? Yeah. So that tomorrow you can get an even better product out of it. And then 10% just experimenting with the AI, right? Like, I don't know about you, but probably same boat as me, where like half the stuff, maybe not half, that's probably too much, but like a lot of the stuff that I try with AI, I'm like, that didn't work, you know, like that didn't save me any time, or the output wasn't quality, and it just, you know, wasn't that great. But I feel like knowing that that's okay, and like even documenting some of those things, like kind of keeping a record of like, I tried this, it didn't work. But then again, maybe a month from now, the AI will be better and I might try it again and it might be fine. Right. So like just that openness to experimentation. I'm curious, like in a corporation, like I have the benefit of being at an agency, right? Like we experiment all the time. That's part of like what people look to us for as partners, is like, you experiment and tell me what failed. Exactly. But in your role inside an organization, how do you approach that concept of like experimentation?
Yeah, you know, being in the IT space, it's just kind of like we're surrounded with people with a very similar mindset in terms of testing and learning and trying new things, so that, like our clients don't have to. So we've definitely embraced it here. And, you know, there's obviously policies around what we can and can't use AI for. And I think that'll just continue to be, you know, flexed. And if there's different parameters that come out, then, you know, we'll shift. But for now, it's just sort of like, make sure certain things aren't talked about when you're putting it into an AI where it's searching the web. But from a security perspective, we do also use Microsoft Copilot, and we have that, like the work version of that. And so that's something, you know, where we're using it in-house, and trying to get into that mindset of using that tool so that we can also, again, help clients understand a secure way to use AI.
Yeah, that's a great thread to pull on for your own podcast, I would assume.
It
as
is.
Well. Another
shameless plug. Yes. I recently just started co-hosting the Focus on Outcomes podcast. So we highlight, you know, businesses within our community that are using technology to scale, and then also what that means for the communities that we live and work in, and how they're able to give back. And so, shameless plug, come listen. You can find us wherever you listen to podcasts.
And we will also drop that link to Focus on Outcomes in the show notes as well, so you can find it. Anything else? Any last parting nugget, earworm that's stuck in your head, or, you know, if you had to summarize Inbound in one sentence, like what parting wisdom, action step, nugget, whatever you want to leave with our audience?
Ooh, okay, I love this. One item that there was an AEO session that I attended that I just felt like I left feeling like I was filled with knowledge. And so it, you know, as a team internally and with Weidert, we've been talking about moving in this direction where we're writing our content like in a way that answers the questions people will be asking AI tools. And we've been talking about it, but also like, how do you do that? Like, what the heck does that even mean? Where do you begin? And in this session, they talked about the importance of like writing more about ourselves in content, which kind of goes against everything we've ever heard in terms of writing content from a marketing perspective. But really starting to incorporate these things about who we are and what we do, and, you know, making sure that that lives out there on your website. And then it's also naturally getting incorporated into your content. And one of the statements that she had said that really stuck with me was that if we don't control the AI search narrative, others will. And that was sort of like, yeah, like we have to start writing about ourselves, or AI is going to start pulling these things like we've noticed already from forums where it's so much more conversational and people are talking about it and they're leaving reviews. And, you know, businesses have to have a way to, yeah, like control the narrative of who we really are and what it is that we do and how we serve our clients. So that statement sat with me. And was like, okay, I know that I have to focus on an AEO strategy going into next year. And that's just going to be a big focus. So if I had to, you know, leave with one thing, I feel like that was my biggest takeaway.
Yeah, I would agree. And I do think too, like in terms of controlling the narrative, there's, I think there's less emphasis so much on like your, you know, in the past in inbound, like we would talk about your owned, earned, and your paid media, right? Like
yes,
those three components that for a long time were staples. And right now, I think we're in the situation where like you said, you can own certain parts of that narrative on your site, and we are learning there's like certain things that you can optimize for that, you know, directly answer questions of humans, but also in a way that the
yes.
AI tools, the LLMs are going to associate, you know, your brand with that answer. I do also think like that there are things we're starting to learn about how the offsite stuff plays into the AI recommendations, and we know that's important. And so I was encouraged too that we're starting to get some clarity around what those pieces are, what can brands, you know, influence versus not, or like even on those offsite communities like Reddit. I went to a really good session about how do you engage on Reddit in a meaningful way as a brand, because we know that is those user voices are important, but how can you do that in a way that you know, is positive for your brand association and not pushy, because you will get kicked out of Reddit so fast.
Yeah,
right? Like,
so fast.
Yeah. So I'm excited to dig into some more of that and to continue sharing what we learn. With our
I agree. That sounds great.
Well, thank you so much, Candice. I really appreciated you hopping on and sharing your insights, and I look forward to the HubSpot user group in a week. Well, by the time this comes out, it'll probably be about a week. So
perfect. Yes, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Kelly.
Thanks for joining us on the ChangeOver Podcast. Remember to subscribe on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, Weidert.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. Let us know what you'd like to hear about next time by messaging Weidert Group on social media. Thanks for watching.